The ferocity of Ida captured in this home security camera footage. Water seen pouring into a beach house before the cameras stopped functioning. This cell phone video shows the roof of a hospital blowing away in a state dealing with the nation's third highest rate of new COVID-19 infections, with hospitals in the region near capacity.
As predicted by the National Weather Service, this is one of the strongest storms to make landfall here in modern times. And as had been projected, Ida rapidly intensified at an unprecedented rate right up until landfall. If you're sheltering in place, please make sure that you're in the most secure place possible in your home, some interior space. And then please make it your business to stay there until the danger passes.
The power outage in the state's largest city of New Orleans could further complicate rescue and recovery efforts, with reports of cell service down or spotty in a number of areas, just as the extent of Ida's devastation becomes clear.
There is no doubt that the coming days and weeks are going to be extremely difficult for our state, and many people are going to be tested in ways that we can only imagine today. But I can also tell you that as a state, we've never been more prepared. Again, all the models that we've seen from the Army Corps of Engineers and from our own CPRA show that the Hurricane Storm Damage Risk Reduction System will hold and perform as intended. Will it be tested? Yes. But it was built for this moment.
Hundreds of kilometers of new levees were built around New Orleans after the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, which struck 16 years ago almost to the day, killing almost 2,000 people and causing $125 billion in damage.
To the people of the Gulf Coast, I want you to know that we're praying for the best and planning prepared for the worst. As soon as the storm passes, we're going to put the country's full might behind the rescue and recovery. We've got generators in place, and we're in close touch with the power providers to get and restore power as soon as possible, because a lot of it's going to go out, and we should be prepared that it can take a long time, no matter how much we've pre-positioned, which we have. That it's going to take a long time for a lot of it to get back up. It could take a matter of weeks for some places.
A monster of a storm that is now tracking inland, but still producing sweeping rains and winds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. Social media posts show before and after pics of entire buildings blown away, vehicles and petrol stations submerged in standing water, and downed power lines causing massive disruptions, including cancelled air travel, as the National Hurricane Center warns of life-threatening flash flooding in addition to fierce winds and tornadoes as the storm now moves further northeast, even as it continues to weaken. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Hi, Sherwin joins us now from New York, where he is monitoring, as you've just seen, not only the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, but also developments on Afghanistan just a day ahead of the U.S. deadline to end its evacuations and withdrawal from the country. Sherwin, a very good evening to you. So you've just shown us there from the Meteorological Board how ferocious the storm is. But tell me, parts of Louisiana and all those affected, are they feeling the effects of Katrina, or is it different?
Well, the word we are getting certainly from the ground is that this was not as catastrophic an event as Katrina was 16 years ago, Tsepiso, but worth also framing Hurricane Ida in terms of her ferocity, right? I mean, this made landfall on Sunday as a Category 4 hurricane, packing winds of over 200 kilometers an hour. And so whether there is flooding devastation this morning or not, there is certainly going to be impacts from those those fierce winds. Over 200 kilometers an hour means downed trees, downed power lines, which has affected transmission in places like New Orleans, which is the largest city in the state of Louisiana. Over 1 million people are now without power. And of course, debris will, of course, now litter the streets. But what we're hearing from residents waking up in New Orleans this morning is that this was no Katrina. But let's hear them in their own words. Watch.
It was pretty intense. A lot of wicked winds. Luckily, no flooding. That's the main difference between this storm and Katrina. This was a lot of wind damage, and Katrina was more flood. Like with Katrina, we got about 2 feet of water in here that just stayed for about a week or two. But this was just a lot of wind damage and no power.
How was it for this one here? No, not nowhere near like Katrina. But it could have been if it would have hit here.
So nowhere near Katrina from the residents waking up in New Orleans today, but spare a thought for those people without power, the implications for businesses. Remember, hurricanes don't happen in the cold, Tsepiso. They happen in searing heat, and so people won't have access to things like fans and air conditioning. So a few tough days or weeks, if the president is to be believed, in terms of how quickly power will be restored in that area.
All right, thanks for that, Sherwin. So now let's change focus and look to Afghanistan. The Pentagon says there is still an active threat of terrorist attacks against its positions at the Kabul airport. Just as U.S. operations are quickly reaching a conclusion in that country after a U.S. air defense system intercepted 5 rockets fired at Kabul airport. What is the latest now?
Yeah, you'll remember a statement from the White House on Friday afternoon, Tsepiso, which basically said the next few days of this mission will be the most dangerous period to date. A statement from the press secretary, Jen Psaki, and that is borne out in the evidence we are seeing, certainly the news from the Pentagon, of those 5 rocket intercepts by U.S. air defense systems that are stationed in and around the Kabul area. The Pentagon says their active threats continue, terrorist threats continue, but the evacuation mission, which is essentially the core mission of the 5,000 plus troops that remain in Afghanistan, while that withdrawal has already begun, those evacuations also continue. We're told 122,000 plus people since August 14th have now been evacuated. Those 5 rockets intercepted by a U.S. missile defense system at Kabul airport. The Pentagon says it has begun withdrawing their troops from the country. Of course, that August 31st deadline looming large, but also in the context, it's a piece of the U.S. President and the First Lady yesterday welcoming back the transfer of those 13 service members who were killed in that terrorist strike, that suicide attack on Thursday, welcoming back those coffins draped in the U.S. flag at the Dover Air Force Base in Delaware yesterday. But of course also understanding that it wasn't just 13 soldiers that died. 170 people perished in that suicide attack outside Kabul airport. In the main, Afghan civilians bearing the brunt of that terrorist attack. And we are seeing more U.S. drone strikes targeting what they say are ISIS-K operatives operating in Afghanistan. A number of airstrikes, including a strike on a vehicle that was laden, they say, with explosives. So I can also tell you news just coming to us earlier today is that the UN Security Council will convene later this afternoon in New York, 3 p.m. Local time, 9 p.m. Central African time, to consider a vote on a resolution that will do the following. It will condemn in the strongest terms what they call deplorable attacks at the Kabul airport. It demands that the Afghan territory not be used to threaten or attack any country or to shelter or train terrorists. It calls for strengthened efforts to provide humanitarian access in Afghanistan. You'll remember over 18 million people, essentially half the population of Afghanistan, require some form of humanitarian aid. It reaffirms the importance of upholding human rights, the big conversation around women and girls' rights in Afghanistan in particular, and also calls on the Taliban to uphold its commitment to allow Afghans to travel outside the country beyond the 31st of August. So beyond U.S. operations, they want those borders
borders to remain open, and they also call for the Kabul airport to be re-established and as a functioning airport once the US withdraws. So that is a resolution that is before the Council. They will vote on it in a matter of hours. We'll certainly update you as to the result of that vote among the 15 members. Tsepiso.
All right, thank you, Sherwin. And of course, you'll get more details right here on SABC News Channel. Correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease.